Hashtag the dark truth about HOAs they don't want you to know. Sarah and Mark Jenkins thought they'd found the perfect home in Willow Creek, a beautiful colonial with a spacious yard in a well-maintained neighborhood with excellent schools for their daughter Emma. Their real estate agent Diane mentioned the Homeowners Association almost as an afterthought. "Oh, it's a good thing," she assured them. "Keeps property values high. The fees are reasonable, just $350 a month. The board is very reasonable." Sarah took the thick CC and RS binder, surprised by its weight. "That's a lot of rules. Most of it is just legal boilerplate," Diane dismissed. "I've never had a client who had problems with this HOA. They should have read the fine print." 3 days after moving in, Sarah was planting native wildflowers in their backyard when Douglas Winters, the HOA president, appeared. "Any landscaping changes need prior board approval," he informed her coldly, handing her a form. "Rules are rules." That was just the beginning. Over the next few months, the Jenkinses received violation notices for increasingly trivial issues: a basketball hoop left out, Emma's bicycle not stored in the garage, a garden hose not perfectly wound. "I feel like we're being targeted," Sarah said after finding another notice. At their first HOA meeting, they discovered their address mentioned multiple times during violation reviews. When Mark questioned the excessive monitoring, Patricia Harmon, a board member, replied, "We apply the rules equally to everyone." On their way out, an elderly resident named Frank approached them. "Don't bother fighting it. Gets worse if you push back." "What happened here?" Sarah asked. "Power-hungry folks got on the board," Frank explained. "Started reasonably, keeping junk cars off lawns, that kind of thing. Then kept growing. More rules every year. Higher fees. Bigger fines. Douglas has been president for 8 years. Anyone who runs against him suddenly finds themselves drowning in violations." The next morning, they received a violation for unauthorized gathering in common areas after HOA meeting conclusion. Sarah began researching. Financial records showed the HOA had nearly $500,000 in reserves, far more than needed for their small community. There were regular payments to a law firm and a security company called Community Surveillance Solutions. Meanwhile, Mark connected with dissatisfied homeowners. They met secretly, sharing stories of selective enforcement and intimidation. Some residents had nearly lost their homes over escalating fines. When Sarah agreed to run for the board, she received an email from Douglas. "It has come to our attention that you're organizing unauthorized meetings regarding HOA business." How did he know about our meeting, she wondered. The answer came from Tom, a tech-savvy teenager whose father had worked for CSS. "They install most security systems in the neighborhood through an HOA discount," Tom explained. "The contract says the company retains access for quality control and community security purposes. Douglas gives them lists of problem properties to monitor more closely." Tom's father provided screenshots from the CSS platform showing the Jenkinses' home listed as a priority monitoring address, and an email from Douglas requesting documentation of any violations at 42 Willow Lane. Residents becoming problematic. Board election approaching. Sarah and Mark called an emergency meeting of concerned homeowners. "This goes beyond strict rules," Sarah explained. "They're using our own security systems to spy on us." The group decided to run candidates in the upcoming election. Douglas retaliated immediately. Every group member received violation notices, and a special $2,000 assessment was rushed through with minimal notice. When Emma came home crying because a board member had interfered with her school activities, Sarah had enough. She contacted a media friend, and the story broke: neighborhood nightmare, the dark side of HOAs. Other homeowners came forward. A state legislator reached out for testimony. Douglas threatened lawsuits, but the evidence was overwhelming. 2 weeks before the election, Douglas initiated foreclosure proceedings against the Jenkinses for unpaid fines and assessments totaling $27,450, all retroactively applied violations. But the community had awakened. Sarah, Frank, and 3 others swept the board election. Their first actions were decisive, firing the management company and CSS, freezing fine collections, reducing monthly dues by 40%, and revising the CC and RS to eliminate the most restrictive provisions. Douglas eventually sold his house and left. The threatened lawsuits never materialized. 6 months later, Willow Creek was transformed. The new rules maintained reasonable standards but emphasized education over punishment. Sarah's wildflower garden bloomed freely. Children played outside without fear of violations. Houses showed personality while remaining well-maintained. HOAs aren't inherently evil, Frank told Sarah as they watched neighborhood children playing. They can serve a good purpose when run properly. It's about balance, Sarah agreed. Some basic standards make sense. But people need to feel like they have real ownership of their homes and a voice in their community. Their story sparked similar movements nationwide. State legislators passed HOA reform laws limiting powers and protecting homeowner rights. Sarah became an advocate, helping homeowners across the country stand up to abusive boards. The dark truth they discovered was simple: unchecked power, even on the smallest scale, inevitably corrupts. But informed, engaged communities can reclaim that power and use it for its intended purpose, to truly improve residents' lives, not control them. Sarah's wildflower garden became a symbol of their victory, once forbidden, now celebrated. A reminder that homes should be sanctuaries, not sources of stress and fear, and that standing together against abuse can transform neighborhoods into true communities.